Time now for Coming In Hot with Brent Wallace, former Ottawa Senator Jason York, and Sean Simpson.
Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. Brent Wallace, Jason York, and Sean Simpson. Boys, we have Tyler Ennis waiting, so I don't want to keep him waiting too long. I just want to make sure you're both okay.
Couldn't be better.
How could you not be with this weather? Come on. This is unbelievable.
It is good weather. It is. In fact, I put on my summer shirt.
Business cash today, Wally. Business cash.
Anyway, we have a lot to discuss. The team is in Utah. They skated today. Ridley Gregg, David Perron, Linus Ullmark updates, Shane Pinto as well. He left practice. We'll get to that after, but I do want to get to the best to ever do it. So before that, this show proudly, as always, presented by Bet365, proud partner of Coming In Hot. Open an account today with Bet365. Bet on a huge range of markets, so whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code DAILY365. Only one NHL game tonight, guys, by the way. That's Tampa in Toronto. Must be 19 years of age or older. Please play responsibly. Okay. I've waited a long time to get to have this chat. So Tyler Ennis, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You've actually started into part of the podcast world as you're doing some stuff in Edmonton.
I've been doing some, just chatting with Oilers Nation a little bit, a couple times, and it's nice to just keep up and watch some of the games and then talk hockey a bit.
Do you miss the game?
I mean, that's a tough one. I'm ready to be done. We'll put it that way. I mean, when I think of my buddies heading back for training camp and grinding and stuff, I don't miss that. When I see them scoring goals on TV and all having fun on the ice, I miss that.
No, that's fair. That's fair. We got a lot to discuss, and so I do want to ask you right away. You played for Travis Green. Many people may not know this, at the Spengler Cup, 2022, I think. You didn't have a great time over there. I think you guys lost both games. But can you tell me what playing for Travis was like?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough judge because, I mean, the Spengler Cup is a bunch of guys that are playing in Europe or a couple guys that are in the American League that come to this really cool mountain town in Switzerland. And you just get to know each other for a short period and you play a couple quick games and you got to gel quickly. My experience with Greener was good, but it was short and we didn't do that well. So I think he was really focused on getting back to the NHL, and that group of guys at the Spenglers like looking to have fun and play hockey. So we had all come in on like a back-to-back, and then we had to drive to Davos, and it was like we were gassed. It's like tough to get in there, and we were all expecting to kind of just have a few beers and hang out, but Greener put us through a pretty tough practice. And his focus was on performing well right away, but we were kind of like, oh man, like we need a day here. But as a guy, I mean, I really liked him. He was awesome. We didn't have the best tournament, but it's the Spengler. It's unique. It's a unique tournament. It's difficult. I think he's a good choice for the Senators, and I love that organization. I love that team, and I think they played well. I mean, I watched the last game against Tampa Bay, and I thought they played great. So I'm excited with the direction Ottawa's going, and I think Greener's going to do a great job.
And so you're making me laugh. I played in the Spengler Cup too, and I'm just picturing Greener trying to run video meetings, being all serious, and you guys like, hey, when are we going to the bar?
It's kind of what we were thinking. Like everyone's like, we came off a back-to-back, so we're tired. You have your family coming in, and the whole like history of the Spengler, everyone's told it's the best. It's just fun. We go have beers and stuff. And we're like, when are we having beers? But yeah, the focus was for sure there for Greener. He really was dialed in. He wanted to win, and that is a great tournament. I know people say it all the time, but if anyone has the chance to go play it or watch it, it's sweet.
I know you played in Europe during the lockout. Was that the nice way to finish your career, playing in Bern and then playing in Germany?
Yeah. So the lockout, I played in Switzerland, like the 2012 lockout. I played in Langnau. I knew nothing about Europe. I knew nothing about Switzerland in general. And I was a young kid, and I went over with my best buddy Jared Spurgeon. We played in the lockout in 2012 in Langnau, Switzerland. And we're like, wow, this country's amazing. So we both kind of said, when our careers are ending, let's go finish in Switzerland. The problem is Jared's the captain, and he's, doing a great job in Minnesota still. He's got 3 years left in his deal or whatever. And I'm done. So I went over by myself because I really loved the country of Switzerland. And I played in Bern 1 year. Then last year I went over to Germany, and that shut it down after that. So the idea was to end in Europe and kind of enjoy my time, and hence the Spangler and the beers and stuff like that.
It is amazing. Europe is great. And a little known fact, I actually own an SC Bern jersey.
Do you?
Yeah. So
Does
And
it have
so
a
do they-
name on the back, or?
no, there's no name. It was just given to. I covered the World Championships there in, I feel like it was 2013, and someone had given it to me, as I had mentioned. I
What
would
did
love
you
to
think
get
of
one.
Bern?
Loved it. It's beautiful.
It's awesome, hey?
Yes, all of it is like Fribourg or Freiburg, depending on how you say it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
nice. All of it's nice. The whole country's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Hey, do
We
they
could-
still have? Do they still have in Bern that massive drum? And the guy plays the drum up in the midsection there. And
Yeah,
it's,
they do.
It's,
It's crazy. Like, I remember my only thought of Switzerland was like financial guys and like suits and wealth,
in chocolate.
For sure. And so my first game, I go in there and I'm like, there's this massive crowd of people, and they're all look like they've just come out of the mountain somewhere with beards and jerseys, and they're smoking cigarettes. And I was like, whoa, this is a different vibe than I expected,
Yeah.
No, they definitely still have that drum, and they're singing, they're playing that drum all game. So it was pretty cool.
we used
Okay.
to do last thing on Stress was pretty funny. We used to do a jersey test after every game, where you'd take your sweater off and you'd smell it, how much it stunk like
Oh, yeah.
cigarettes. Because every rink they're smoking in there.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
I
it's
know,
crazy.
and I got asthma, so I'm like, people are smoking cigarettes right behind me, and I'm like trying to play it. I can't breathe. I'm like, it's just the cigarette smoke. Like, it's affecting my game here.
Zurich, just a haze of blue across the top. Anyway, okay, moving on. How many people continue to say you're the best to ever do it?
Not that many.
Really?
Not that many. I'll see it because I think it was started. How did it start even? Was
Drake
it,
Batherson was mic'd up, or you were mic'd up, and Drake Batherson said it into your mic. It was on a sentence.
okay, yeah. But you know where I hear it most is like, I remember after the season in Ottawa, we went out and I was walking around like just in the bar, and people were screaming like, "There's the best to ever do it." And I was like, "This is awesome. This is great." I had like 20 points that year, like playing fourth line, and everyone's going, "There's the best player ever." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome."
It's so good. I remember I went back and watched the videos, and so it's good to listen to you and Drake. I actually reached out to Drake. He's like, he had nothing but really good things to say about you, and I'm just curious, do you keep in touch with some of the guys that you played with in Ottawa?
Yeah, those guys are awesome. Like, I really love that team. I just talked to Drake the other day. I just texted him just randomly. Hadn't talked to him for a while, but I was watching the Ottawa game, and I texted him after, I'm like, "Buddy, you were flying out there." So that whole crew, their core, like, they got such a good core of guys. Brady's amazing, Shabby, Timmy, Drake, all those guys. Like, that core, not only are they going to be amazing players and develop into just hopefully a Stanley Cup team, is they're tight too, and they hang out and they're buddies, but they compete, and it's just a great crew. Really, really good crew of guys.
Do you feel like that's a playoff team right now, Tyler?
From what I saw last game, they played really well. Like, they played tight. I haven't really seen too much though. I literally just watched them play Tampa Bay. But like, when you got Brady Tkachuk as your captain, that's a good leader to have heading into playoffs if they get there. So I think just based on that core, it's kind of time now for them to take that next step. So I haven't watched enough, but I would say so that, like, Timmy, Pinto, like, their centers are amazing. Norris, like if you have those three centers, and you got Shabby on the back end, Sanderson. They got Elmark and Net now. That's an amazing core. So I think it's just kind of about building and growing into whatever the coach has as their scheme and plan and structure, and buying in. And I mean, you couldn't ask for a better like 6 or 7 guys like that for a team moving forward at their age and with their contracts. That's what I think. I don't know what you guys say, but that's my opinion.
Well, you played 700 games and I didn't play any, so I will trust your opinion. Does it seem less chaotic than perhaps when you were donning the red and black?
I mean, one game I watched, I like how they played, but it's too hard to say. I mean, I don't know Travis as well, and obviously I really get along and like DJ a lot. And DJ brought me in twice. So I'm never going to say anything bad about DJ ever. And I like Travis. So I can't judge looking off one game if there's drastic differences, but I can say that they looked really good last game against a good Tampa Bay team. And I know the guys in the room, and I know that organization. I know there's a different GM now, but the strength guys, the equipment guys, the leadership, that team, I'm optimistic, and I'm really hoping for them.
It's funny you pointed out when you're the one game you watched Drake. Like I'm seeing a difference in him too. Not that I always liked him, but he just seems like he's got an extra gear now. You know that some guys, when they just hold that puck a little longer, that little play opens up. He's just seemed to be, his confidence seems to be at an all-time high, but it seems like he's going to have a pretty big year.
For sure. I mean, he's so good. I think, like you said, his poise is next level. He's bigger than a lot of people think. Like he's got amazing hands. He's got vision. I consider him a pass first guy, but he's got a great shot. He's the best complimentary guy you could have on a line, maybe in the league. Like he's a guy that everyone would want to play with. If you give it to him, he can score. He's going to find you anywhere. And he's an amazing teammate. He's a guy you want to sit next to on the bench. So yeah, I could see Drake put up a huge year for sure. I mean, he's had a great year already, but he's due for a big one.
Does it also look like he's getting more comfortable with his size? You touched on that, and that's one of the things in the past I'm thinking, hey, maybe he's starting to kind of realize, man, I could be a pretty kind of a power forward in this league.
Maybe. I don't know what he's thinking, but when I watched that game against Tampa, he was taking the puck to the net, and he is a pretty big guy. I think he was small his whole life, so he's probably doesn't maybe realize his size, but he's a big guy, and he's crafty. He's one of my favorite players just to watch, because he can run a power play, he can one-time a puck, he can do it all. So I'm a big Drake Batherson fan, obviously, but I'm a fan of a lot of those guys on that team.
I want you to take me back, and I know you talked about DJ and you have nothing bad to say, but about the time when you played here, because there's lots of stuff going on behind the scenes. I'm just curious of what it was like in the room or off the ice with what Ottawa seemed to be at the time.
DJ wanted to stress work ethic and compete. His main message every day was compete and outbattle everybody. He's in the room. He's very funny. He's charismatic. He cares about his guys. He likes to be loose when it's time to be loose, and he's intense, very intense when the situation calls for it. He's intense throughout the games. So yeah, like I've known DJ since Toronto, and he's been in my corner the whole time. So I think he's going to be successful in the NHL in some capacity for sure at some point. I know he's in LA now, and I really like Jimmy Hiller too. Jimmy was with him in Toronto, so I'm hoping they have great success together too. And I think they will, because they have such a good chemistry, such a good balance. So yeah, I enjoyed playing for DJ. We'll put it that way. He was hard on me, but he was also great with me. You know, we had fun. I could joke around with him, but he also would hold me accountable.
So I just want to follow that up then. Why didn't that team have success, or the teams that you played on in Ottawa? Why did they struggle?
I think it's I think it's so hard to find that perfect mesh of success. It's so difficult. That's why it takes teams forever to rebuild. Look at Buffalo. It's so difficult to find that. I think we did have a lot of youth that's growing. They're growing into it now. I think it takes a lot of time to learn how to actually be efficient and successful in the NHL. So there still was youth, and Ottawa is still technically kind of young. Like their leadership group is young, but I mean that the plan was to help develop and grow into a successful playoff team, and it didn't get there for Ottawa. And I think that they'll get there soon, hopefully this year. But I can't really pinpoint exactly why. Maybe we just weren't good enough. You know, we might not have been good enough. The players maybe just weren't there. Finding and defining roles throughout the lineup is a challenge. To get 20 guys to buy into their exact role at certain ages, if you don't know, is difficult. That's why winning is so difficult, because it takes so long to curate if you don't have the perfect pieces or the right message being brought in. So I don't know why. I don't have the answer, but all I can say is it's difficult, and I like what I saw against Tampa Bay, and I'm hoping that Ottawa gets there.
Okay. I have a leading question for you. Are you a big Halloween guy?
I would say I love the Halloween parties.
Yeah,
I would
because
say
it is 10 days away. I'm just curious about this particular picture of you, perhaps with the Ghostbusters of Michael Delzato, Josh Norris, and Drake Batherson, if I'm not mistaken. There it is.
That's me for sure underneath that little. So I remember that year I was like, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what to dress up as anymore. It's too difficult. And I think I was like, I'm just gonna go as a ghost. So I just cut out like the eye holes and sat there, and it was kind of funny actually. Like just a blanket or whatever that is, a bed sheet with two eye holes, and I was the ghost. But yeah, those are fun. You asked me if I miss playing. I definitely miss that stuff.
Do you still get dressed up for Halloween or for the parties? Do you host a party?
No, it's just me and my girlfriend alone in Kelowna now. So we are not doing anything for Halloween. I definitely have been to a lot of Halloween parties in my life, done a lot of costumes. Jared Spurgeon, who I was mentioning earlier, sent me his Halloween costume before he went to his party. And I was like, that's the best costume I've ever seen. And it's since gone pretty viral. I think he dressed up as Ali G. And it looks exactly like Ali G.
Oh yeah, I was good. I saw that.
It's amazing.
That was outstanding.
It's amazing. He looks exactly like him. So this year, unfortunately, no, we're not dressing up. We're not doing anything. I mean, and where we live, I don't even think there'll be people coming around for candy. So it's going to be a strange year, you know.
Tyler, how bad are you feeling for the Buffalo fans these days? I mean, that has been a long road. You talk about a rebuild. I think they've been through 3 of them, and it doesn't appear that there's any light at the end of the tunnel.
So I haven't watched a single Buffalo game, so I can't comment on their play. But what I can comment on is I feel their pain for sure. Yeah. I have a lot of friends still over there in Buffalo, and I'm confident that they'll turn it around, and I hope they do. But yeah, it's tough because that team, that organization, that city, especially that fan base, has been dying for success. and they're so appreciative, and they show up every game. They go to every Bills game. That city just loves sports. So when it does happen and they do turn around and they do eventually win a cup, I'll be there and I'll be hanging out and having some fun because those are great people. I'm a big fan of that city and just the people in general. They deserve a cup eventually. And I love the people of Buffalo.
Does it make you laugh to see Lindy Ruff back there?
I mean, Lindy was awesome when I was there.
Yep.
Lindy was great. Lindy might have been the biggest celebrity in the city when I was there, and he was a great coach. I was a little bit surprised, but I mean, he's so beloved in that city that it would be a great story if Lindy was able to turn around and get them in the playoffs and eventually win. So, hoping for the best. Lindy was important for my career, so I'm hoping he has success again in Buff.
The Buffalo Ottawa used to have a pretty good rivalry. And I know I'm trying to think, I don't know that you've faced them now. I can't remember.
I wasn't there when they had the really good rivalry when like Peters fought Emery.
Yeah. Yes.
I wasn't there for that, but they had some good runs against each other in the playoffs. I remember like Alfie scored on Miller, I think.
Yep. Yeah, went to the cup
in that
final.
series. They had some really good teams. Yeah, those were crazy days because Buffalo and Ottawa were both kind of the top of the East back then, hey?
Yes. Yep. Oh yeah, Buffalo had great teams. By the way, I think you scored your first NHL goal on Ray Emery, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. Yeah, in Philadelphia.
I did some work. Do you know who you scored the most goals against in your career?
So someone asked me this the other day, and I said Montreal.
Carey Price.
It was Carey Price?
9 times.
9 times. Wow.
Secondly, one Craig Anderson, 8.
Wow.
Which leads me to this video of one of these goals that you scored, and I'm curious where this thing ranks in perhaps all-time list. Jake, do we have the Tyler Ennis goal?
Is it my backhand?
Well, don't ruin it.
Yeah, that's certainly number 1.
The replay's better.
Yeah, that was I was feeling it back then, that's for sure.
That's pretty sweet.
He even elevated that too over the pad because that goes on the ice. It's not going in.
Yeah, that was nice. I remember that was those games against Montreal were great because the Montreal fans used to come in and just fill up the whole rink in Buffalo, which was wild. So there was good atmosphere in there, and that was definitely the nicest one I ever got. It was pretty lucky too. Like if you look at it, I kind of lose the puck, and it still ends up back on my stick. So that was fun. Those days were good.
Yeah, it looks like the Ovi goal from Arizona back in the day. You played. Ottawa's going to host the World Juniors this year. Memories from 2009 and how cool that experience was.
Yeah, that was awesome. I just moved into this place in Kelowna, so I'm getting ready to hang up a bunch of jerseys. So I'm gonna hang up the gold medal Team Canada World Juniors jersey. I mean, what a dream come true. I was the same as any other kid in Canada growing up watching the World Juniors and like idolizing those guys. So just to make the team, I was like pinching myself. And then to have it in Ottawa and to win was so special. Ottawa was packed and loud. And the best memory, other than, winning the gold medal, was probably Eberle scoring that super late goal against the Russians to tie it with like 5 seconds left, because we did have quite a bit of pressure on ourselves because they had won, I think, 4 in a row, and they wanted to go for 5, and it was in Canada, and there's 10 seconds left, and we're like, shit, we're going to be playing for the bronze. We're not even going to make the gold. And then Ebbs scores with 5 seconds left, and kind of after that, we kind of knew we were going to win after that. So it was awesome. Ottawa, it was a great moment to get kind of introduced to Ottawa and then eventually play for them. So I got a lot of great memories in that tournament.
Do you still keep in touch with some of those guys?
Tyler Myers is my next door neighbor. So
Oh.
he's gone playing right now. Just played 1,000 games, which is awesome. Who else was on the team? I mean, I played with Tavares was kind of our big name that when I played with him in Toronto a few years ago. Jamie Benn was my line mate on the fourth line, which is pretty funny that Benny was stuck on the fourth line. Who else?
PK's on that team.
PK was on that team. PK was a big part.
Is that Colton Tubert?
Tubert was on that team. Ryan Ellis was on that team. Cody Hodgson, I think, led the tournament in scoring. And Eberle was big. It was funny because I remember when we were trying out for that team, Eberle was like a year younger, so he didn't necessarily like think he was going to make the team. I remember sitting chatting with him, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't think I'll make it." And I was kind of like, in my head, I was like, "Yeah, I don't know if he will either." Like, I didn't think he was going to. And then it's funny to like fast forward. He's like a Canadian legend. That year, he was like our most clutch guy. The next year, he scores like 2 huge, maybe more important goals, winning goals. So it's funny, like that conversation. I look back on it, like he didn't think he was going to make it, and then he ends up being like one of the big names in Canadian junior history.
Pat Quinn coached you, right?
Yeah.
He took over because I think it was supposed to be Benoit Groux that was supposed to coach that team.
Right.
What was it like? That was he any different as a NHL coach to a junior coach?
Well, so Benoit Groux was the coach, and we had our summer camp, and he was pretty like stern and hard, but he really liked me. So like I was like first line slated. So I was like, okay, this is awesome. And then they switched, and Pat Quinn took over. I think Benoit took a job in like the American League.
Yes.
Which was kind of a strange decision. And then Pat Quinn took over, and we did our camp at Christmas time before they make the team. And I remember I didn't think Pat liked me as much as Benoit. So I was like, ooh, I don't know how this is going to go for me. The good thing for me was my junior coach, Willie Desjardins, was the assistant. So I was like, I think I'm good, but Benoit I was sitting better with. I ended up playing fourth line, and we won, and it was all great. But that change was, it was an interesting change.
Interesting. I didn't know that part.
You played for a lot. I'm just going over your coaches, man. You played for Quinn. You played for Ted Nolan. You played for an old teammate of mine, Dan Baalsma. I'd love to get your thoughts on Dan Baalsma. What was he like playing for?
Dan was our personalities didn't align as much. I don't think Dan understood me as a guy, really. I think he thought I was like a stoner or something like that, which I'm not. I might sound like it, but I'm not. I was also going through some injuries and stuff, so I didn't perform great with Dan. Dan did bring in a lot more structure that was not there previously. And there was just so many things going on within the Buffalo organization, with ownership changes, GM changes, everything. So it was a weird moment in the Sabres like development. And we had a lot of, big names. We had some higher expectations than maybe should have been there. So there wasn't a lot of success with Dan, but I think Dan is clearly a good coach. He went to the Calder Cup 2 years in a row and is now doing a good job in Seattle. Mm-hmm. And he brought on Jess Campbell, who I used to skate and train with a bit here in Kelowna, who's great. So he's doing some really good things. And me and Dan weren't close like me and DJ were. We'll put it that way.
Before I let you go, just quickly, a couple of players on Ottawa. You were at the very beginning of Tim Stützle, if I'm not mistaken. I know you haven't watched much this year. What do you think of him as a player from what you know?
From Timmy,
Yeah.
I think he's amazing. I think Timmy, for an extremely talented and skilled player, plays very tough. Like, I think Timmy maybe gets overlooked as people always said he like dives and stuff, but I think it's because Timmy's skating so hard and he just is like moving so much that he's like, I don't think he's diving, to be honest. I think Timmy is just, he's going and he's competing and he plays hard, and I really like Timmy, and I think that's a great piece to have. Like, Timmy brings so much talent. He brings compete. He brings creativity that you need when you need a goal. Timmy can be the spark to create something out of nothing. So I love Timmy. Timmy's awesome.
Perfect. Tyler, I appreciate you taking your time. I know it's busy for you just to get settled. So thank you. I'd like to have you back on again now that you're an analyst and get some more thoughts on the game.
Sure. I can come on whenever. That just means I have to watch a little more hockey, because if I don't watch anything, my opinion really doesn't mean anything. So
that's okay.
Games.
Lots of guys just make it up. It's okay.
It's almost you need to get another Fern back there, and it would be like that show between two ferns.
I'm gonna keep tinkering around with the best camera placement. I don't know if this is gonna be it, but we'll see.
I think it's very zen. I like it.
I love it.
A bird feeder. You could use a bird feeder.
I'm gonna play around with some different things, so we'll see.
See you, Tyler. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
All right,
Thanks
Enzo.
for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Tyler Enzo, the greatest to ever do it.
Okay, so what exactly does that mean? Did Batherson just more of the backstory on that?
Well, so just go back and you can Google it on the Sens website, or it's on YouTube, and then watch. Enzo is there's twice it happens. I believe Enzo is mic'd up in practice, and Drake says it to him, or it's backwards. And the first time is just Drake just says, "Tyler Ennis, the best to ever do it." So
It just stuck.
Yeah. So just because it's just the way it is, it's very good. And so it's always been said about Tyler Ennis as the greatest ever, the best to ever do it.
I love the term that he uses, stoner. Like, he just sounds like such a chilled guy. Like, you're just sitting there, and I'm thinking about a guy, kind of a BC Bud guy. It is just, oh my gosh, like, what a great teammate. And you think about Batherson, same thing. Like, that vibe that both of those guys bring, you just absolutely love them as teammates.
Who's the guy from Fast Times at Richmond High?
Sean Penn, Spicoli.
Yeah,
Spicoli.
No,
that's
him
what
all
his
the way.
nickname should be, right?
That's Sean Penn, right? If he's going for Halloween this year, just go right there. Hey, get the vans, do some smoke, and you just get her going. Hey,
if Tyler Ennis is my teammate, I am dubbing him Spicoli.
Yeah. Order pizza to the dressing room. Hey.
Yeah, he's good, dude.
He really
he's very
is.
entertaining.
Yeah.
If you get him out for if you were to be in the Spengler having a couple of beers, he would have been great.
He was the reason I just started looking through his coach. Like, guys like that make pretty good hockey guys, and because they know what it takes. They've been a lot of different teams. Like, he had Quinn, he had Ted Nolan, he had Balsma. Played for Dave Tippett in Edmonton too. Mike Babcock. Dave Tippett's one of the best coaches around. So you just you absorb a little bit from each guy you have. But yeah, that's good. But I love how those guys too, they understand it. He's like, yeah, that guy's a good teammate. You need good teammates. Just guys that are fresh out of the game, know the game so well.
Yeah, I love the honesty as well. You know, sometimes it doesn't align. And I think with the World Junior, is Guy Boucher not one of the assistant coaches?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but just realizing in Buffalo and Ottawa, hey, you can have all the pieces in place, you can have such a good team, but you understand when there's not something functioning properly with ownership down to the manager, you know, you recognize it as a player. And I love his honesty. Hey, sometimes you line up with the coaches, you know, Yorkie, and then other times it's like, you know what, it's nothing personal, but hey, a certain coach feels a certain way about you, and it's tough to get around that.
Yes,
so tough. It's so tough. You know, it's the one thing he said about some teams, and I'll bring up the Columbus Blue Jackets, for example. they've never got over the hump to become a good team. Like, think about how long that team's been in existence for. And obviously this year is some terrible circumstances, and it's just awful. But if you go up for the years, like they had maybe 1 year where they upset Tampa, but besides that, that's a team that's been struggling since its existence to be a consistent, good hockey team, and they just can't seem to do it.
That year they end up making
your scouting issues.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. Their drafting was never very good, outside of
but that's what I meant, like the whole hockey.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And then you go back to the year that they made the trades with Ottawa, I think, to bring in Duchesne, bring in Dzingel. I think that was the year they finally won a round. But no, there just hasn't been enough. And then the exodus of players, guys, like you talk about, and everyone's always talking about Canadian teams and nobody wants to play. How many players have come to Columbus? From the Bob to Panarin to
Dubois, but some of those guys are contract stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I'm just saying though, they've had a tough time keeping players. Laine, it has been a very, very strange existence for what is, I think, secretly a really nice place to play.
Well, the players who played there say very good things about the city.
Very much so. Yeah.
Okay, I want to move on because we got some work to take care of in the Sens. Lots of stuff coming out of Ottawa today.
All right.
I guess Sens land in Utah.
Let's get to work.
Okay. Well, then you started off, Yorkie. You got some business.
Got some business to take care of with our good friends at Bonisher Excavating. If you're looking to spruce up that driveway, get some curb appeal, give BEI a call. You can reach them at 613-432-1120. You can also do some equipment rentals and get some aggregate and topsoil sales as well. You can visit them at bonisherexcavating.com. BEI is helping to shape the Ottawa Valley, and please remember to slow down in construction zones.
And for a limited time, you can go to Charm and get a coming in hot necklace. We're going to start making those. This isn't true at all. Don't go there asking for one. Charm Diamond Centers is proudly Canadian owned and operated since 1972 with more than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece program and an unbeatable pricing policy. Check out large selection of Canadian lab-grown diamonds, mined diamonds, and don't pay until 2025 with their instant in-store financing. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. See, I think we should all have those big chains. Get them from Charm with the big logo on it that you get. I think that'd be great. Gold. Get some
just
gold
like the flavor guy or whatever it was.
Yeah. Okay. Out of Utah today. Ridley Gregg is skating. He skated today a full practice. Is a possibility for tomorrow. Shane Pinto left practice. This is stuff according to TSN 1200. Shane Pinto left practice, but he's expected to be fine to play. Here are the lines for today. Also, Matthew Highmore is now healthy, and so he was placed on waivers to be sent down. Cole Reinhardt was basically the extra. He's on the trip. Artem Zub not on the trip. David Perron not on the trip. Now, David Perron's wife has posted on Instagram a very heartfelt message about what they've been going through. I've talked to David, and we talked in the past about if he ever wanted to discuss it. He does not. And so out of respect for David, we are not discussing it either. And so just our thoughts to David and the family right now. That's a tough time for everybody just to be going through. And it's a health of a family member and of course, their unborn child. Okay. So the good news outside of that, Linus Ullmark is in goal. Gentlemen, I'm going to go right now to this one piece of information I have to make you think that this is going to be a hell of a road trip. Linus Ullmark's record against the 3 teams they are facing, he has never lost in regulation. His goal save percentage is all above .944 and a goals against a below 2. It's a 3-0 trip, gentlemen. 3-0.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
Well, I think coming into the year, guys, was interesting as well because I didn't know what to make of Utah, and that's probably the toughest game on the trip as far as what we're seeing right now. Hey, all 3 of these games are very winnable. Utah, I think, having the first one. Vegas is just off to an okay start, and Colorado, quite simply, is not the same team. So when I look at the Sens guys and I look at the way they played Saturday night against Tampa Bay, if I put Ullmark into that lineup, Yeah, I'm pretty excited about these 3 games. I thought it was a 4-game road trip for some reason, but I look at all 3 games and think, you know what? Hey, you got an opportunity here, and why not face the best team first, being Utah?
Listen,
Yeah,
can you just give me some props for this great bit of information I
Oh,
provided?
that was no, I agree. No, lots of props to you
Unbeaten in
for that.
regulation.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
pretty
they need him
impressive.
back. They need him
Yeah.
back. They good time to come back on the road, get your feet wet here against Utah. That's going to be an energetic building to play into. Like I watched their, I think it was their home opener. It
Yeah.
just looks like everyone's having a blast. I know it's a retrofitted basketball stadium, so there's some like it's kind of like that where the Islanders are playing. Remember the Islanders rink, Wally, that they were playing in?
Barclays?
Oh, it was terrible.
So weird.
Yeah.
It was so
well,
like at the end-
Arizona played in that for years to start,
Yeah.
right? They were playing in
Yeah.
the basketball building. Yeah.
But this one looks a little bit better. But the
Well,
fan base looks like it's having a riot. Just
Well, they've
It's
got
just-
$5 or $6 beers. Of course, they're having a
of
good
course,
time.
and it's the only place in Utah where you don't have to like get a friend to let you in. Everybody can get in because that's what the bars are like, right? It's like it's weird. Yeah. So-
I'm not. The Vegas game concerns me. One is
yeah.
they've lost. Let me just see here. Where is it with Vegas? They're 2-8-2. The last game they won was a shootout with Tim Stützle getting the shootout. They're 1-7-2. I think since that game, they've only won once in Vegas. That was 2018
Yeah.
on the road. They're 1-3-2. They struggle in Vegas, and they've got an extra day off, which is likely a rookie party. They're probably playing golf or doing something else. So there's way too much distraction for me for the Vegas game. I
Too
don't like
much
it.
distraction.
It's funny when the NHL was always fearful of the home team, right, in Vegas, and how would this be and what's going to be
It's the
like, and it's like
opposite.
no, I'm living out in the suburbs. I've been to the casinos. I've done all of it. Let the road team come in. Let them have some fun. That's the real tale.
Yeah.
It's hilarious how that was for years. Oh, we don't want to end up going there, and it's going to be tough to focus on hockey. No, that's tough on the road team. Not to mention they've got a incredible atmosphere at the same time.
Do you remember was it Andre Tourney with Arizona canceled the Sphere trip last year or whatever it was? It's like,
did he?
guys,
That was
Yeah.
Nashville. That was Nashville.
oh, it was Nashville. That's right.
Oh,
Trotzy canceled it. Trotzy canceled it because they something happened. They got blown out by Vegas or something. He said, no more. Sears
Oh.
canceled. But look, go back to that schedule for a sec, because normally you would, right after the Utah game, you'd jump on the Bird and you'd get to Vegas Tuesday night, and you're probably getting into Vegas around 1. You're doing a bag check right into. You might even leave your bag. You're not even going to check in. You're going to put it right with the guy with the top
valet.
at the front door, and then you're going right out. And then Wednesday's a recovery day. And then you're going to have a good sweat it out. Then Thursday. So I tell you what, if it's me, I'd like to stay over in Utah after the game and check out what's going on in Utah, because there's a buzz going on in there.
Yeah.
Well, watch
those-
after the Vegas, because Vegas is an afternoon game, so they're out of there at 6.
Oh yeah,
Right? Do they fly? Now, if you're Travis Green, I bet you fly to Colorado. But do they have another night?
Well,
Vegas?
no, you're not.
You get
having-
the boys
no.
out of there. Very underrated city though in Denver. I got to say that
Yeah,
though. I got to be honest with you. I've been to all 3 cities, and Vegas is obviously the top. But man, oh man, Denver is a great spot as well. So hey, fun road trip. Hopefully a little bit of team bonding. Great to see Ullmark back, and I think Yorkie, just for the guys. The teams in the East just don't get away that much. And I think
No,
this
it's
road trip
ours.
comes at a perfect time. They finish
Yep.
off that homestand. They were able to outscore LA, able to outscore Tampa. I think with Ullmark in net, there's a lot of positives going on with this club right now, and I think it should be a pretty good vibe. Not to mention, as I said, just get out and have a
Yeah.
little bit of fun.
For sure. That Tampa game shouldn't even have been close. It was
Yeah.
it was crazy, the stuff that was going in that game. But full marks for Ottawa to sticking with it in the Tampa game. And I'll give Forsberg some credit later in the game. He made a couple saves, but boy, oh boy, I didn't even thought that game should have been close.
Yeah, I agree. And that was with Vasilevsky coming in 3-0, a very good team. They lit him up. They look great. things just started to be clicking. And not to mention, guys, boy, oh boy, on the back end, I was so impressed watching Clevin and JBD when Zub returns. And this is nothing against Hamonic. You don't have to knock anybody down necessarily, but I watched that and I was like, wow, that looks like almost like when Zub first came in, guys, and they weren't sure what they had. And I think it was a game in Calgary where he finally dressed and you're kind of like, whoa. And I won't quite go to that, but watching JBD, that's a different animal right now. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's confident, and the two of them together, they weren't just playing. They weren't just trying to survive. They were thriving Saturday night. And I think if you're a Sens fan, everyone keeps saying you got to go out and find another defenseman. I'm like, who, where, what? Come on, nice try. I think you have to be pretty excited about this, what this group will look like when Zub returns.
Yeah. It's when you get two, I think I talked about this last week, when you get two young guys together that are trying to make their mark in the NHL, sometimes you feed off one another and you you talk more. You just make sure you're ultra focused on there and you don't play scared. The worst thing you could do if you're a young guy is go out there and play safe and try not to make, if you try not to make mistakes, you're going to make mistakes. You just got to play. You got to play organically, Simmer, just like a nice day like today. You just got to go out, get the sunshine. But no, it's I've seen it before when you get a couple young guys together. So we'll see. There'll still be some ups and downs, but I liked how they played. I didn't mind how they played in the Jersey game either. The Jersey game, I thought Ottawa laid an egg in that one, but didn't really mind.
Okay, so here's my. People were ready to get all over this team. I remember after the Montreal game, like, oh my God, what's wrong? They've actually played a very solid 5 games. You look at your goaltending save percentage, it's not very good. And I just think that this team is a much better team than perhaps we want to give them credit for. And we have a little bit of PTSD with this group. I get it. Yeah. I think they're playing a lot better than what we maybe are seeing, if that makes sense.
Well, I think we break it down like the National Football League, guys. We go every game. It's like it's a 17-game season. The Montreal game, I was like, well, come on a Saturday night. Same thing with New Jersey. I felt they were a little flat, but those are the nights where you need better goaltending. And I think if you end up getting that, but I totally agree. You're starting to see like the key players up front are really taking the next step. It's so nice to see what Batherson's doing. You watch Timmy starting to throw his weight around. And then, as I said, on the back end, put Ullmark in there. And you're starting to look around and you realize where Detroit, where Buffalo, or Montreal is at. And you start to say from an Ottawa Center standpoint, why can't you be with Toronto? Why can't you be with Montreal or Tampa Bay, Florida, some of the big boys there, and start focusing on that? And I think that has to be the mentality right now. And I just don't see any reason from an offensive standpoint. Power play, 3rd best in the National Hockey League. Penalty kill will be better with better goaltending. I think you have to look at this and say, okay, now let's raise some expectations here and realize this is a playoff hockey team.
Yeah, I was at that Jersey game. Yeah, boy, I know they hit some posts and stuff, but I thought they were really outplayed in that game. And I thought it's one game. It's only one game. And it for sure was an off night for Ottawa, but I'm like, this team is not in the same class as that Devils team in that one particular game. But then you know what? The good thing is they did bounce back against a Tampa team that's still a pretty good hockey team. And I thought was by far the better team in that game. So this is the thing with the NHL. On any given night, anybody can pretty well beat anybody. That's the thing with this league. And what's the difference? The difference is goaltending. Goaltending and special teams. And for me, it's Ottawa's, the power play has been good. PK's got to be better, but it starts with saves. So I'm really excited to see Ullmark come in and get his first game here against Utah and see where this team can go with consistent goaltending, because there was one particular moment in that Tampa game where I'm like, oh my God. Well, I sent you the note on it. I'm like, it was end of the period, and those are crushing goals. When you give up a shitty goal.
Do you want to see it?
You want to see the goal? Sure. Let's show the goal.
Tyler Clevin, who's a 22-year-old.
Yeah, getting pressed into more minutes here in the absence of Artem Zub. Same thing can be said about Sanderson, playing over 25 minutes a game, 25-38 coming into this afternoon.
Averaging the second most by a skater in the NHL, 22 and younger. Here's a save. Is that a goal? It is.
It is.
looked like Forsberg had kept it out, but all of a sudden, Tampa Bay has tied it up, and that's Jake Gensel's first goal as a member.
So instead of throwing it behind the net, he simply throws it right at the net, and he hits the short side. Forsberg leaves literally a puck.
So we can take it down. So the point is, I know what you're going to make. I just think that there's an awful lot of mistakes on that entire play.
There's an awful lot of mistakes, but it's to me, this has been the history of this team since they've been a bad team. It's not when because you're going to make mistakes a lot. It's when you need a timely save. And to me, that was like the worst possible time to give up. It's always the worst possible time. They say, your coach always says this.
Yeah.
Don't give up goals late in periods, especially when you got a 1-goal lead. And I know it was a bouncing puck. I know there was mistakes that led up to that, but that's to me when you really need a save at that position. But I'll say full marks, because that was a shitty goal on Forsberg, full marks to how he did play later on in the game. And I like the response, because you could just lose all your confidence. And I was really happy to see him come and make a couple big saves at the end. But the bigger thing was Ottawa's response after. They scored on the power play, right? So it's called bend, don't break. And in years past, they would have broken. They would have given up that. Tampa had all the momentum. They would have finished 3-3, and Tampa probably would have won the third period, and Ottawa loses that game because of that one mistake. But to me, it showed some signs of maybe this team is starting to mature, because, you put it behind you, you go, you take care of business on the power play, and then you have a great third period. So I think Allmark's going to clean up a lot of these things. Like I don't think we're going to see stuff like that. And I'm hoping for better with Forsberg. I'm hoping that he's going to be more consistent moving forward.
Yeah, and I also think Ullmark backing him up will help him. But guys, honestly, they could easily be 1-4 going on this road trip. I mean, they battled back. You can only do this so many times in a season, but I think it's because they're optimistic and they know Ullmark's coming. But that LA game and the Tampa game, that is the real secret right there. And even from the announcer standpoint, it's like, it's a save. Poor Forsberg with the blocker side and even tight stuff like that. You're like trying to figure out, how does that puck go in? Obviously, he's got a bit of a mental situation going on, but like I said, they rose up. They kept battling back in that game. They did the same thing in LA, and that's 2 wins. You all of a sudden you're saying 3-2. Okay, not bad. Not a great game against New Jersey. Not a great game against Montreal. Okay. But let's head out on the road now with some confidence.
But we keep saying, the good teams always find a way to win. Well, they're finding a way to win. So how about we just go, this is a team that was left for dead by November of last year. Now they're starting to compete a little bit better. Look, they went against,
for sure.
They went against a New Jersey team that people say could probably be the one to come out of the East and play in a cup final. I just wanted to, at some point, don't we have to go, well, this is exactly how you try to win in this league, because every game is extremely tight. Just take the points and move to the next game. I don't see a ridiculous amount of bad habits, and I guess that's the thing I don't see.
You
can't go from where they were last year to all of a sudden being expected to lead the Atlantic Division.
No, it's baby steps. Baby steps of just trying to, you want to be a team this year that's challenging to become, obviously you want to be a team that's going to be a top 4 team, but realistically,
sure,
this team's probably a team that's battling for a wild card spot later on into the season. And that's great. That would be great progress. That'd be baby steps. But back to that clip for a second. If you look at the expression of Travis Green's face right there, when you let a goal like that in and your coach has that expression, it's like, okay, you lose a little bit of trust there. So gained a little bit back later in the game, but we'll see what happens moving with the goaltending moving forward as far as, it's the leash is shortened.
Yeah, I can't remember the clip, guys, but there was also a big breakdown in the offensive zone, was there not, with Shabbat? Is that the same goal? And that was where I think
that goal's off a face-off.
Yeah, that was really kind of, yeah. I mean, that is for a coach. Hey, there's a guy that we always talk about has a great poker face, but there's just certain times, even though you know the camera is going to be on you, just realize, you know what? Oh, come on, please. I played for, you've been on teams, and you just understand. So I totally agree with you, though, Wally. There's no reason not to be positive, but the unfortunate is the sample size the last 7 years. A lot of fans aren't quite there yet, and I think people focus on the negative. They pinpoint. We need this, we need that. I'm like, listen, hey, the big boys are scoring. The defensive core with Zub in and even with Zub out, put in Ullmark. There's lots to like when you look around the National Hockey League and start thinking with that mentality of, hey, there's no reason we can't be part of the Big Four.
Okay. One last segment I got to get in. This segment is powered by Square. If you run a restaurant, you're too busy for this ad. You're thinking about how to get more orders flowing and new locations opening. You need to get more customers and keep them coming back. So really, you're thinking about Square because Square Restaurant Tech helps more than 400,000 restaurants do all those things and more. So when you're thinking about your restaurant, think bigger and think Square. Go to squareup.com for more information. Okay, gentlemen, quickly. We like to be, I like to be positive. You two are negative. Ottawa has 8 power play goals in the first 5 games. They've scored it, by the way, in each of the 5 games, which is the same thing they did in 2005. They've tied the most power play goals through the first 5 games of the season with 8 back in the 05-06 season. They ended up having 8 power play goals, 2 shorthanded goals. And they started that year, however, 5-0, going on to win 51 games. All I'm saying is the power play looks pretty good.
Looks great. It looks really good. Like you look from their entries. Entries are good. They got all kinds of different options. I think and the time the power play is scoring, like they're using the power play. For example, that last game, you lose momentum. How do you get momentum back? You can use your power play, and that's how they've, that's been a big part of their wins. Is that power play has been scoring timely goals, and I just like you have your net front with Brady. You got Drake, who's a multi-threat player, shooter and a passer. You have Norris, who's it looks like he's starting to regain his scoring touch, and Sanderson just distributes the puck so nicely on that first unit, and you got a great option with your second unit too. Like you got Giroux out there who slides to the first unit for the 5-on-3, which I think is a great move because you got him with time and space. You want him on your first unit, and you got 2 different looks, 2 different options, and both units are pretty good.
Yeah, and just watching Sanderson, as you said, watching him walk the line, it is so impressive. And already 7 points in 5 games and starting to get some love around the National Hockey League. And this reminds me so much of the first Norris that Carlson ended up winning. It took about the All-Star game when it was hosted in Ottawa. But people are already starting to look at him and realize, wow, like this is an incredibly complete player who's running a power play, one of the best in the National Hockey League. And just York, you said all the time, but what a treat to watch. What doesn't this guy do? If you look around the National Hockey League and you start looking at comparables, it's a very short list of guys. When you start to say, okay, as far as an all-round game, he's right there, man. And it is so fun to watch that.
I went on with Kipper and Borney on their show last week, and I said those exact words, and I had people laughing at me like, you're an Ottawa Senators fan." Listen, I'm not paid by the Ottawa Senators. I don't have anything to do with that team. I tell it how it is. This kid, and I've said it from day one, he's a special player, and it's not just the offense. When you come in as a young player, there's going to be warts on your game as far as defending goes. To me, and I brought up the point of all the young defensemen in the league right now, and you said it, multi-purpose defensemen that can defend and play some offense. He is right there. He's right there. He's 6'2". He closes. Here's the thing he does, I think, as good as any defenseman in the league, and it's called closing time and space with gaps in the corners. A lot of defensemen, when you have when you see a forward's eyes, they will back off and give time and space. Watch Sanderson when he plays. He gives you no time and space because his skating is so good. He knows he's not going to get beat, and if he does, he can recover. And that's the difference between a young defenseman like a Sanderson versus most of the young D in the league. They don't have that confidence defensively, and he's got it. His offense is just starting to come, and I don't know if he's ever going to be like a 70, 80 point guy. I think he just cares so much about defending that's his number one priority. He just happens to be good offensively, so they're using him at that as well. But I think this guy's a special player, Simmer. It's just and listen, the guys that come on our show, this is how you know how teammates talk about a player, how he works, how he goes about his business. Watch all the best players in the league nowadays. What do they have in common? They're all hockey nerds. They live, breathe, and sleep the game. Their whole prep and body and food, it's all about hockey. He's the same. He's like that.
Yeah, and the other part, guys, you look at all 4 players that came out of North Dakota. I mean, Pinto, same thing. You know, a little bit of fun side. Then you go to Clevin, then you go to JBD. All 4 of these guys have come out of great programs. And as far as Jake Sanderson, yeah, I mean, it is checking through the hands. It is eliminating, you know, the simple details to a defensive game. Like, he's so tough to play against. You're talking about the Makars. You're talking about the Heskinens. You're talking about it. Honestly, I can't even say that Quinn Hughes necessarily, or even Fox, are able to play a two-way game like that. So the points will come, as you know, for the most part, the power play. If they have one of the better power plays in the league, then he could be a point a game player. And that's where it gets you into the conversation for a Norris Trophy.
Yeah.
I wish they'd make 2 trophies, but we'll say that for another day. It just seems like now, as long as you're the leading scorer, you win the Norris Trophy.
The other one should be the Rod Langway. Rod is probably the last guy that won the back-to-back, and part of that was being in the
playing
the public eye. Well, exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no, I totally agree. There's just not many guys that get that opportunity.
Before we go, you just brought up all the North Dakota guys, and I'm curious, Simmer, I know you know Brad Berry a little bit.
Yeah.
Why is he not gotten, perhaps, or maybe he has and he's turned it down? Why is he still there?
Yeah, it's a great question. I actually asked him that a few times. I think it's the right situation. Now, financially, there's no doubt that there would be a bigger gain, but I think he kind of looks at a big picture for where his family is at. When you're coaching there, the college coaches, and I wish junior hockey would have more of this, where, hey, you could be a lifer. You know, we think about college football all the time. You go there, you're in a great program, you got a great situation with your family. Okay, if the National Hockey League comes calling and they say, listen, we'll give you 5 times 5, possibly. But why would you leave that with the risk of what's going to happen in the National Hockey League? He's just in such a good spot, Wally, and he's established himself and realized, you know what, I can do this the rest of my life. It has to be something very, very special. Has to be the right spot for his family. And I don't know as far as his children. One of the bonuses when you coach at these schools is your children going to school there for free. You know, as a nice little caveat. So I think it's just as much. He realized, you know, he played in the National Hockey League, he played in the minors. He realized, man, coaches get turfed so quickly. He's got such a good situation there. But to your point, could he coach in the National Hockey League? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's people like have no idea like how hard it is on NHL coaches and their families. Number one, it's the threat. It's the threat of weekly of being fired, but it's also you bring it home with you at night. And you just can't let it go. As a player, you can get it out when you play and you'll be pissed off, but usually the next day. But coaches, they hold on to it. That's why these guys, for the most part, have big, wide, red faces, because they look like they're about to explode, and it's nonstop. And you're like, you look at it. It's sad to say, you look at professional hockey league coaches, and the amount of like the divorce rate for these guys, it's like 78%. Like there's another thing too. Like you want to keep your money. Like it's tough on the family. And sure, it's great. You're coaching in the best league. You have a chance to win the Stanley Cup, but there's a price that comes with that.
Yeah, very much. And also at the college level, you just look at that and understand, hey, be respectful. You're the face of the program. It's very different. Like in the National Hockey League and junior hockey, I feel even worse. It's like you're one loss away. You know, you look at the situation in Edmonton, you know, from last year. Woodcroft had done a great job. All of a sudden you get off to like the last thing you're thinking about is getting fired. You're 12 games in, all of a sudden you're out of a job. You know, and I'm not saying in college it can't turn, but you're not feeling that way. You're feeling like, okay, I've established a program. I've got a name. I've got a face to the program. I've got an opportunity to be here long term. Where the National Hockey League, there's no coach that goes into the year that doesn't realize I'm like Nashville right now. I'm not saying Anna Burnett's going to get fired, but you're starting to look around already and thinking, what the heck are we doing at 0-5, right? You know, that's how
they've got Boston
next. On you. Oh, exactly. You know, LA, watching them come through, you're thinking, my God, what's going to give there? That's the way we live in the National Hockey. And I go back to that football analogy. We live and breathe on every single game in an 82 game season versus it just being 17 games in the football.
That's why you see that look when your goalie lets a stinker in the green. And all coaches do it.
Yeah.
You're trying to lose my job here.
He didn't hide that very well.
Well, and imagine if that's your goaltending tandem. Like, think about it, guys. Like, Travis Green isn't stupid. If you went into the year with Korpisalo and Forsberg, what are you thinking as far as your mentality? Well, first of all, I have to tell my owner, we're not going to make the playoffs. Don't blame me. This is not going to happen. But you know, hey, I got a little card here to play. I've got Mr. Ullmark. And that's what makes you feel so good as a coach right now. If you're the Ottawa Senators, hey, this wasn't bad. You know, Ullmark is a little bit unhealthy, a couple of games not great, but if you got through this, he said, you know what, 3-2, couple of comeback wins against LA, against Tampa. I feel pretty good about where this unit is at right now.
Well, we'll dive into the Utah matchup tomorrow morning. Plus, I've got a note about Drake Batherson for you I'd like to share. So we'll save that till tomorrow.
Nice.
As we are back because of.
You got me curious now.
Well, it's at 9 a.m. because of you, once again. So we're going to give away a gift certificate, a $200 restaurant coupon, voucher, gift certificate to the Locks in Perth. So that's going to be tomorrow morning.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
and I'll get the Simmer survey was a no-show today, so I'll be getting that out pretty soon, and we can return tomorrow.
I got a foursome. I still got a giveaway here while I get this foursome.
So we can do that tomorrow too. You know what? The Jason York makeup game will be tomorrow. We will get stuff away.
All righty. Let's go.
See you guys.
Cheers, Otto.
Thanks for tuning in to Coming In Hot. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.